Elizabeth Warren out with a new plan today on higher education, and it's something. She wants to eliminate up to $50,000 in student loan debt for every person with a household income of less than 100K. Borrowers who make between $100,000 and $250,000 a year would have a portion of their debt forgiven. No one making more than $250,000 a year would have their debt forgiven. This would amount to effectively canceling something like $650 billion in student loan debt. And obviously the way that it's targeted, and we'll get into more details, is designed to benefit people who are less well off financially.
Can we just put Nina Turner's tweet back up again?
Hello. Yeah. And look, we're gonna talk a little bit about, there's been some reaction to it, some positive, some negative and everything. But this is a bold proposal. This goes beyond just 4 years of public college, like the Bernie Sanders plan. Bernie Sanders plan has other components as well, and she has that too. We'll get into those other details. But canceling student loan debt, that's a big thing. I mean, I don't think we've ever had a major party candidate that proposed something like that. I believe that at one point Jill Stein had a plan similar to that. And so that's what I'm saying is that sort of policies has now been integrated into the progressive primary challengers in the Democratic primary this time around.
And I think it's important to note, not only is it a bold policy, but it's a policy. And as we were just talking about, not every candidate so far has even given us any policies. And so this is a woman who has denounced racism, called the president on it, called for his impeachment, been very explicit in things that outside of the Native American debacle, which was horrifying, she is really the only one of the only few. I think we've got some policies from Julian Castro, but who just over and over and over again releasing new policies. Like, we know explicitly what type of presidency Elizabeth Warren is promising. We're not trying to figure out who she is or what she believes in or how we would deal with this or this and that. I mean, she's laying it out, and that's what you want from a presidential candidate, right?
That's what I want. I mean, like, I guess I was thinking about this weekend, and like since I saw this actually, and I thought it's like sort of just a gut thing, but I feel like if she was 37 and a guy, she'd be running away with this thing right now.
Yeah.
Like if she could like hop up on a countertop like a cat and then talk about her policies, I think she'd be winning. But for some reason, even doing this doesn't benefit her for a variety of reasons, some of which we're very familiar with.
Would she even be pushed, I wonder, to go to this level? Because it would just be, the attention would be such a layup. All you have to do is, I don't know, be cute.
Yeah. But that's not to say that she would be accepted by all quarters. Obviously, the elites, the people who manage the student loans, the bankers, they'd all obviously hate her for the same reason they hate like Bernie Sanders and all progressives. But I think that maybe the media would have switched over more. Anyway, I want to give you more details of the plan though, because it's not just the student loan cancellation. In addition to eliminating the undergraduate tuition at public colleges and universities, which is obviously a big one, she would expand federal grants to help students with non-tuition expenses and create a $50 billion fund to support historically black colleges and universities. On top of that, her policy would also prohibit colleges from considering citizenship status and criminal history in admissions decisions, cut off federal money from for-profit colleges, and require an annual equity audit for public colleges that would identify shortfalls in enrollment and completion rates for lower income students and students of color. So, I mean, you got you kind of have to do these two things at the same time. If you're gonna cancel the debt, then you also would have to pay for the college to make sure that you don't just have the same problem in 15 years. But she goes beyond that, and I think it's a pretty awesome plan. Seems like it.
This is the best thing I think I've ever seen.
So we'll get to some potential negatives. But she said about it, it's reducing home ownership rates, the student loan crisis. It's leading fewer people to start businesses. It's forcing students to drop out of school before getting a degree. And I know what like Jake Tapper is gonna say, but how do you pay for it? Well, she thought of that. She would pay for it with revenue generated by her proposed increase in taxes for America's most wealthy families and corporations, with the campaign estimates to be 2.75 trillion over 10 years. And then we have a little bit of repetition there. So what I have seen from some, I think they're all on the right, but I do not believe that this will be constrained to the right for long, is one guy's article in Washington Times, he has a blue check, so he's a very serious writer, it's a slap in the face to the people who've already paid off their student loans. Maybe my cheeks are hardier than I thought, but I paid off my student loans and I don't feel slapped.
Right.
Like, I don't think that just because, look, so we were talking about this before the show. For years, I live in a very small place with very low rent. I drive a very cheap, very small car. I have effectively no social life and I don't travel. So for years, I put every dollar I could because I felt crushed by my student loan debt. I also went to a public college, and so my debt was lower than some people's is, and I paid it all off. And the idea that I would give the middle finger to helping out other people just because it wouldn't personally benefit me, how bizarre, how alien a way, like Social Security is a slap in the face to the seniors who froze and starved to death before Social Security. I don't have cancer. I don't want the government trying to find a cure for cancer. We don't govern based on purely personal interest in how every dollar is advocated. That's not just unwise, that seems fundamentally evil to me. Yeah,
my friend Eric Haywood, I saw this right before the show, he tweeted in response to one of those ridiculous criticisms. So anesthesia would be a slap in the face to injured soldiers who had to suffer surgeries awake on the battlefield. No, and it's also like a similar argument that you hear people who feel like they're logical have about increasing the minimum wage. Why should someone who works at McDonald's make the same amount of money as someone who's a paramedic? Well, maybe you should be focusing on an argument that a paramedic's job should pay more, but you shouldn't be saying that someone who works 40 hours a week, regardless of what they're doing, should not be able to pay their rent, should not be able to get medicine, should not be able to buy food. That it's ridiculous. There's no comparison. The problem is that people work full time and aren't able to take care of themselves, just basic necessities, and that's not okay. So it's kind of like that same thing. I mean, I don't know, like if even no matter how much it took, if you are able to pay off your student loans in a quick amount of time, there's some luck in that. There's some luck in finding a job, but there's some luck in that.
Oh, look,
consider yourself lucky. Don't say that, that's not fair. I just don't like it. Like the idea, like I suffered, so you should have to too. That is weird.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I would like to see it constrained to the Washington, I forget if it was the Times
Examiner.
It was the Examiner. Yeah, there you go. No, that's not how we run the country. That's not certainly how we shouldn't run the country. It's antithetical to every value. Right. Yeah, exactly. No, that's not America. We help people out. So anyway, great plan there. Hopefully it'll get a good reception. We will see how seriously it's taken by the media. We'll also see if it's able to generate a couple of appearances for her maybe on the mainstream media. Bold plan, fixes a gigantic problem, takes the weight off of millions of people's shoulders. Maybe you can bring her on your show. We'll see. Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.